welcome to Talk It Out, where we talk it out. My name is Duryea Rashad, and I'm so excited to be here another Thursday night. You know how we do. We're going to do some chit chat about current events, and our main topic tonight is weaponized religion. We've got an excellent panel lined up for you, but before that, if you're new to Talk It Out is a space where people of opposing views come together and have a healthy, productive dialogue in a respectful way. Keeping in mind that it's not always about proving who's right and who's wrong. Sometimes it's simply about listening and being heard. Now, before we get into introductions, I want to ask you to subscribe to our channel. Subscribe to our channel by going to YouTube and searching WOE, Woe Nelly Media. You can find us on Facebook at Woe Nelly Media or WNM Talk It Out. Find us on Instagram at the same, Woe Nelly and WNM Talk It Out, _Talk It Out. And also you can find us on Twitch at Daygamer, DAYGAYMER. So happy to be here. So without any further ado, let's get to some introductions. I'd like to introduce my illustrious panel. First, returning to the panel after a few weeks off is Mr. Connor Smith. Connor Smith is 27, currently living in Atlanta, Georgia, pursuing a degree in biology at Emory. What's up, Connor?
Not much. How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to have you here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm excited.
Team Tank Top.
Yeah. Thanks.
For everybody who's listening, me and Connor both rocking the tank tops today. We're trying to flex.
Yeah.
For the viewer.
Got to show off the ink.
You got to. I don't have any ink, so I don't really have any to show off. But all right. So next up, we have returning, of course, the always opinionated, but always listening, Mr. Timmy D.
What's up?
Timmy D, second of his name, lifter of weights and eater of donuts, learner of things and a student of medicine, husband to a wife, father to some dogs. What's up, Tim? How you doing?
Bro, that sounds better the second time you've said it.
Because I knew it was coming this time. You know what I'm saying? Last time I had no prep, so I didn't know what to do. But this time I was prepared. How you doing?
I'm pretty good. No complaints. Life is good.
Yeah, life is good. I'm glad to hear that for you. Okay. So next, returning to the panel after an extremely long hiatus is Miss Keisha Watts. Hey, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great. Now, Keisha hasn't been with us since our first live episode because she shut it down that bad where we was like, oh no. She came through and wrecked shop. So we're so happy to have her back.
I'll try.
A little bit about Keisha. She is a television and film professional. She's forever educating herself on ways to advocate for her community and her culture, be it politically and or socioeconomically. So what's up, Keisha? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm hanging in there. I'm glad to be back.
I'm glad to have you.
Yeah.
Okay. And also our last returning panelist, all the way from, I believe, the West Coast, right? Miss Tabitha Howard. How are you doing?
Good. What's good, everybody? Yes, from Orange County, California.
It's such a bright energy, Nubian queen all day, every day.
Okay.
Miss Tabitha Howard is a full-time work-from-home entrepreneur with health and wellness. She coaches health and wellness, and she's a self-published author from Orange County, California. So happy to have you here. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm exhausted. That full-time entrepreneurship life is no joke, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I love the grind so much.
Awesome. Okay. So get a little feedback here, and I'm not sure who it's coming from. There we go. Okay, and all right, cool. So next, he's not returning to this panel, but he has been on our sister podcast, Geeking Out, Mr. JCW. How you doing, JC?
What's up, man? I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm glad to have you here. He's a fellow nerd, so I always like having the nerds stacked on the deck. He is the founder and creator of the Gamer Allied People of Color, a community of homosexual, Black, and brown nerds of color and introspective allies among the alternative lifestyle and same gender loving atmosphere. We like to, show love to everybody. And that's what I love about this guy. How you doing?
I'm tired. It's been a work week.
Yeah.
But I'm
Which
good.
is the weekend, though. It's almost there. Just got one more day.
A little bit.
You'll make it. Now, this next panelist, I'm so excited to have her because she is, I feel like, one of our most loyal watchers. She's always in the comments, either during, before, or after, and she's always giving so much love. So I'm so happy to have her actually here on the panel. Miss Alicia Faith, how are you?
I'm doing well. I can't complain.
Awesome. Alicia Faith is a full-time music educator and a wife. She's a dog mom and soon to be a boy mom. I just found out she was pregnant like 5 minutes ago.
I don't know how.
Because she's super pregnant. She stood up and I was like, oh, you're pregnant. So I don't know where I was. She loves Christ, music, people interaction, and all things home organization. She's not the romantic type, if anyone cares about that. I care. I'm not the romantic type either. I hate rom-coms.
Mm-hmm. No.
I can't deal with it. Okay. Our next panelist is joining us via, I believe we met on a podcasters group. And I was like, I really need somebody on this panel. And she tried to get in here last week. We had some technical issues, but I was like, can you come next week? She was like, I'm down. I'll be there. Miss Cassie Cage, what's up?
Hello.
Hey. Now, her introduction, short and sweet,
basic,
but it said a lot. Cassie Cage is very opinionated and loves arguing. You set the bar high, so you got to meet that expectation tonight, okay?
I got
all right.
y'all.
Hey, that might have been one of the best ones we've heard.
Pretty much, just that is what it is. I like to argue. Okay, is that everybody? Everybody, yes, everybody's here. Great. So before we get into our current events, I'm gonna give you my check-in. My check-in is I'm wonderful. This is my favorite time of the week. I really enjoy doing these because I don't really see a space where people can be tolerant. Generally, the internet is full of negativity when you disagree with somebody. So I like that we're filling the space with something different. So before we move into our main topics for this evening, let's pause for a short ad break.
Oh.
Yes, those were commercials from two extremely exciting events. One is the Springer Opera House in Georgia, which is the State Theater of Georgia in Columbus, Georgia, the second most populated city in that country. In that state. They're opening their doors, socially distancing. So they decided to do found space theater, which is basically theater that's not inside of a stage. They're doing an outside production of Evil Dead, the musical. Is sure to be amazing. Make sure you get your tickets. If you're visiting Columbus, if you're in that area, or if you live there, now's time. Tickets are on sale now. And the other was from Rem Alternus, which is a live action role play of Shadowrun missions, which I am a part of. I've never been that much of a nerd in my life, but it's so fun, and I can't take how much I enjoy those experiences. That's Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Twitch at Master of Rem, R-E-M. All right. So here we go, current events. So I'm just going to use my powers of deduction to decide what my panel wants to discuss first, because I think what everyone really, really wants to talk about is the debate. Right? Am I right? Come on, let's talk about it. Okay, so I didn't see the debate because I was doing Shadowrunner. I saw a clip. So the one clip I really had to see, because from what we talked about the debate on this show like 2 weeks ago, and it apparently is exactly what I thought it was going to be. But when they said that he had given this permission to this group to stand down, I was like, yo, I have to see what everybody's talking about. I have to see, because they basically like, well, they asked him to condemn white supremacy and he wouldn't do it. So I watched the video because I was like, that I just couldn't believe that that's what happened. And I have to say, a lot of people are going to be mad at me, but I don't agree that that's what he did.
It was pretty subtle, but that's exactly what he did. It was subtle, and it was subtle on purpose, but that's exactly what he did.
That's what a dog whistle is. It's
right.
Subtle. It's not going to be out there in your face. He did a lot of stuttering, so I get why you probably thought
to me, it looked like he was flustered in a moment and didn't know how to respond.
He's not always
flustered.
So
I know y'all are gonna hate me for this, and I'm so scared because I'm black and you can't say stuff like this when you're black. Not today. But I'm not really a Trump supporter or fan. But when I saw the moment, it was like, okay, so they went after him. Not went after him, but they started asking him the question, will you condemn white supremacy? And he said, sure. So I was like, okay. And then they said, well, do it. And he's like, okay, what do you want me to say? Who do you want me to say? And then dude said, say Proud Boys. And he was like, all right, Proud Boys, stand back, stand down. And then that's the dog whistle part. That's the part of it where I'm just like, that was.
I'm sorry, I can't really answer that.
To me, the stand back, stand down was a whistle.
He didn't say Proud Boys. He asked them who, and Chris Wallace said the Proud Boys, white supremacy organization.
Proud Boys.
Yeah, Biden said the Proud Boys, but as well as white supremacy. He didn't, and then because the thing is, Trump, what was it, the next day said that he didn't know who Proud Boys were, which I don't believe. They're one of his major donors. The founder of the Proud Boys is one of his major donors. So I don't believe that whatsoever. So to me, he does a lot of dog whistling. And also to me, the fact that, say for instance, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt and he didn't throw the dog whistle out there.
Right.
There was the Proud Boys themselves took that as a activation for them.
Right.
Did a whole post about it, did a whole flyer about it, and yet he still didn't come out and say
that was the issue I had.
So let's piggyback.
Go ahead, piggyback.
I want to piggyback. So I looked up the words and it was stand back and stand by, and none of those words to me is sit down. So there was no condemning and stand by. Stand by means hold on. Stay right there. Come, but just hold on. That doesn't mean to sit down.
And then on top of that, he then suggests on Twitter that that his supporters should now be poll workers. He's amplifying that unofficial poll workers.
I saw that.
It's the things that he says subtly and he does subtly that encourages the violence.
To me,
that encourages people that show up at protests with guns and voting for all these people that are voting early, and his supporters are out there with guns.
I agree, but to me, the biggest issue came with his lack of action after the fact. Like, if it was a mistake, and that's why I have an issue really accepting that it was being flustered, right? Because if it was a moment of being like, oh, I was flustered, I said the wrong thing. Well, let me say this real quick. If it was that, I think he should say, oh, I don't condemn it. I'm going to take this moment right now. I'm sorry. I have to take this moment right now to say I do condemn it. I don't stand by that. I feel like he should do that. Now, having said that, is it possible, and I'm going to direct this at Cassie, since she loves to argue. Is it possible that he's too much?
I do not do political debates because the stuff that I have to say is very brutally honest, and I will offend a lot of people. So I'm just gonna stay neutral on this one.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Can I interject?
Okay, let me say my little point, then I'll go ahead.
There is no neutrality for anybody of color on this podcast right now, or anybody in this country. We're talking about a man in this country who got on live television in front of 10 million people, and he clearly stated that getting rid of diversity training for federal employees at federal jobs is racist. That's what he said. That's why he said he got rid of it. We're talking about a man who quoted Walter Headley during protests for George Floyd. I don't really know how much more evidence you guys need where you're still in a position to say, I don't really know. Do you really
That's not
know?
what she's saying.
Like, I know, but we're talking about the point in the moment with which this man said, stand down and stand by. He said, sure. It was very dismissive to the beginning of the context of this narrative around him denouncing white supremacy. This should not be a dismissive issue. There are several people who tell you all the time, if you are white and you are not trying to dismantle the establishment, you are a part of the establishment of racism.
Go ahead, Tim.
So I have a few things. I will first say that I think Trump handling that question, I agree with Durye's assessment that I think he was flustered. But I think he absolutely butchered it. I don't understand how you fuck that up, right? Like, can you condemn white supremacy? But I want to follow that up by saying, like, Trump has a history of condemning white supremacy multiple times. He's like on record in multiple interviews over 10 times saying, I condemn white supremacy, I condemn KKK, all of that. I also want to point out that Chris Wallace asked that same exact question in 2016 during the Republican primary debate. That was a very loaded question by Chris Wallace. Lastly, when he was talking about critical race theory, he was talking about critical race theory, not diversity training. He explicitly separated. He explicitly.
No, I'm sorry. You can piss on somebody else and call it rain. He definitely was talking about.
He definitely was talking about anti-racism
with federal employees. We are not about to mix waters. We're not going to have a rose-colored glass. We're not doing that. That's what he was talking about.
Go watch it. He explicitly
said,
I watched
it. I was live.
He said, I am not against diversity training. I'm against critical race theory. Those are two separate things.
Okay. All right.
Listen.
So what did he mean by
wait. Keisha, after this, I want to go to Connor because he's been trying to get a question in, a response.
Okay, so the critical race theory part, what is he against in that?
Critical race theory is basically like if you were white, or white equivalent, and you were a part of the system, then everything that is wrong with the system is your fault.
It's not saying that everything. It's more.
Look up critical race theory. That is essentially what it says, which is not the same thing as diversity training.
So then why did he get rid of it?
Because critical race theory,
you don't even know because you're not the one who got rid of it. You don't. Have you been in a federal employee institution and have you actually gone through the diversity training?
I was in the Army.
Do you think it's a critical race theory? Is that what you're trying to make an allegory out of here?
No, because
diversity training is. So then they're not the two. How are we talking about?
They are two separate things.
What about it? I mean, no. You're not going to do that. We're going to stay on topic. It's diversity training, not critical race theory. You're not going to Kellyanne Conway.
Listen, hold up.
He got rid of it and he said it was racist. That's what he said.
Listen, I get it. I get everybody's passionate about this, and I get everybody wants to get their thoughts out, and I get how passionate you feel about JC as a black man. You feel like this is not a neutral point, but this space is a little bit more listen. So let him, like what he's talking about, critical race theory. He'll have his chance to speak, and you'll have your chance to speak. So let him say what he's saying.
I think the fact that Trump explicitly said they are not the same thing, and that he was not against diversity training, and that he was strictly against critical race theory training for the reason that it is racist. I agree with that. Can you at least agree that they're two separate things?
No, you're saying critical race theory was he saying that in relation to the educational readjustment that he was advocating for? Is that where you're getting that info from?
Yeah.
So in relation to this specific question, in regards to diversity training, what was the purpose of getting rid of the diversity training? Also in 1 second, also in addition to the critical race theory, his overall approach to this is about how the whole education system and how they discuss in the ways this country was founded. And it has a whole thing with the 16/9 project that came out last year from the New York Times. So that's where this whole thing is getting muddled in.
Right. He didn't get rid of diversity training.
Wait, give me a second.
Go look at his executive order. He didn't get rid of diversity training.
Let's go to Connor. Let's go to Connor.
Critical race theory training.
Yeah, let's go to Connor for a second. He's been trying to say something for a minute.
Okay, well, I haven't seen the executive order, but in the debate, there was no clarification. The question was diversity training. It had nothing to do with critical race theory. Is that what you were saying? Yeah. The question itself never mentioned critical race theory. It only mentioned diversity training. And Trump did not justify or make separate what those two things are. So that makes me believe that those two things are lumped together, because when Chris Wallace said, "Why did you cancel diversity training?" Trump didn't say, "I didn't do that. I canceled this instead." So I would have to read the executive order to check, but I'm more believing what I saw on TV than what.
So can I ask the panel a question? Can I ask the panel a question really quick? Do y'all think it is, if the executive order says one thing, but what he's saying out of his mouth to the public is different, do y'all think that's harmful or helpful? Because let's say, for instance, the executive order did only make a ban on critical race theory type stuff, right? But what he's preaching, because that's what people are hearing, is that diversity training is racist. So because he's saying that, even though the executive order, whether it did or not, we're going to say the executive order didn't for hypothetical purposes. Do y'all think what do y'all think that message does for the American people?
And well, getting back to what he's saying, the executive order talks about how he doesn't believe, his administration doesn't believe that racism is not ingrained in the history of this country.
Right.
Once again,
which a lot of people do think that, surprisingly.
Which it absolutely is, and is also one of the tantamount talking points from the 16/9 project, in which his administration is against, and as well as his administration is actively trying to make sure that the educational curriculum in this country does not discuss the 16/19 project. So that's where this whole critical race theory is about. And also the suggestion that critical race theory, quote unquote, because, whatever you guys should use in that term, is racist, is ridiculous, because you can't be racist against white people. That's not how racism works in this country. And
I don't agree with that, but
well, I sort of talk about it. If I'm proved wrong in the definition of racism in America,
read the definition of racism.
The definition of racism got changed.
No, it was an amendment.
It was an addition.
They added to it.
Yeah,
it's different. To add something to it, it's not the same as changing it. To change it would say it's no longer this, it is now this. But
now it's like two meanings?
Yeah, it's like if you go to their dictionary, it's like it does. If you go to the dictionary, there's a ton of words that have more than one meaning.
Nobody
it has multiple meanings.
There's a lot of words that have multiple meanings.
I'm not about to listen to a white person that wrote a definition for racism to tell me what racism is.
Does my opinion hang on. Does my opinion not matter because I'm white?
He wasn't
talking. You then
I wasn't
judging
talking
me
to you.
because
I
the
said
color
I'm
of my
not
skin.
going to listen to a white person that wrote the definition of racism to tell me what racism is, and I'm not, and I ain't gonna change.
Can I finish?
So white people don't know.
I never finished.
Y'all hold on, everybody. Let's bring it back in, because literally
they do know what it is.
There's 4 people talking at one time. So
I was trying to finish what I'm saying.
I know, but apparently Connor wasn't done. I interrupted Connor.
I felt okay. Yeah.
And then you interrupted me. So let's go back to Connor. And then I want to hear what Tabitha has to say, because she's been very quiet.
I was just.
She said no. Okay.
I was just gonna cover more on the debate.
Feel free.
He did verbatim say they are teaching that America is racist, and that is why he removed it. Critical race theory. is really just a framework of looking at sociology through the lens of race. And if you're associating that with saying that white people are bad, that's because throughout history, if you look at sociology through the scope of race, white people have been in power and have taken advantage of minorities more. That's why it looks like it's saying white people are bad. As far as fumbling a question, I think it's acceptable to fumble a question, but not when the question is just, can you condemn white supremacy? Because the Proud Boys, they're not only they promote what is it? The Great Replacement theory. And like my mother-in-law was a former Trump supporter before that happened, and she actually just got rid of all of her Trump things, and I'm happy about it, because when you're refusing, you can't fumble that question. That's a freebie.
Should be.
And even if you say even if your argument, Duria's, which was he said sure, but there's also violence on the left, and everything before but doesn't matter. You shouldn't have to follow up.
But.
You shouldn't have to follow up, I condemn white supremacy with a but. That's you just say you condemn it. Like, you don't have to add, well, but there's also other bad people out there. Why add that?
And that's the issue I have with a lot of politicians nowadays. It's like you're always conflating these two issues that don't intersect. It's like, yes, it's like the whole black on black crime thing versus police brutality. It's like those don't make either one not a problem. But okay, so I do want to move to a new topic because we have a lot of current events that I want to cover. And this one is a little less spicy because it got a little hot in here a minute and a half ago. Okay. I want to talk about Tory Lanez.
Oh God.
I want to talk about Tory Lanez. I want to talk about Tory Lanez because I am so annoyed with this situation. Annoyed is because I don't know these people personally, and I definitely am biased towards Megan. So the reason I'm biased toward her is because she always goes, you know what I'm saying? And that just does it for me. So for real though. So if anyone doesn't know, allegedly Tory Lanez shot at Megan Thee Stallion after she got out of the car post-argument and hit her foot, but it wasn't actually a bullet in her foot. It was like fragments from the bullet. Reports are saying that he shot at the ground and said, dance bitch, before he shot her. Then she came out and said that she was being forced to say something to defend herself because she was trying to keep quiet, which was very true. But she felt forced to say something once she started saying something. Now Tory Lanez comes out with a whole album, which then makes me go, huh? Because you had time to do a whole album in the last few weeks, and a whole album, and apparently it's all about her. They said every part of the album mentions her in the shooting. He basically says that she's trying to frame him. Her people are trying to frame him for the shooting, or stuff like that. So I want to know, as a panel, how do we feel? First, I want to talk about men, the ideology behind men protecting women. I want to know about how you feel about that. Is this an instance where we should believe her because she might have been the abused person in the situation? Or what are we thinking about this? The album, is it interesting timing? What do you feel? Let's start with Cassie.
I mean, I believe her because if it was another color, race, people would be quick to believe them before they believe black women. So I 100% believe her. The whole situation with Tory, though, releasing the album, I felt like that was corny and that was whack. And he basically like talked about on the album like that she was lying. He was glorifying Kylie, and he was just talking nonsense. Like,
you heard the album?
I didn't listen to it. I heard like little snippets like on the Shade Room and stuff, but I wasn't here for it at all. At the end of the day, I felt like it was his gun. He was in the car. It was Megan, her best friend, the security guard, and him. And Kelsey already came out and said that she didn't do it. So, and I felt like Kelsey should have stuck up for Megan in the first place because that's supposed to be your best friend. If that's your best friend, I'm gonna defend my best friend. She didn't defend her at all, so I could see why they're not friends anymore. But I wasn't here for it. And I'm over the situation too because it has nothing to do with me. I'm not a celebrity. They don't care about me.
Somebody in the comments just says, was this a publicity stunt on both parts? Keisha?
I don't feel like it was a publicity stunt on Megan's part.
Okay.
It's a crazy stunt to have, but and getting shot in both your.
You got shot in both feet.
Shrapnel. I think shrapnel went in one foot. The bullet hit the other one. Yeah. So, and they released a medical report showing that it did happen. So, I don't know. Like the excuses that I'm seeing, nothing should justify anybody getting shot.
Right.
She didn't have a weapon. So, and then also he has a history of domestic violence, from my understanding. I could be wrong, but
I've heard that too. Well, it kind of goes
allegedly.
But I really want to hear someone's ideology behind, because there's someone in my life who I'm not going to say because they're not on the show to defend them, who feels like women want equality, yet they still want men to protect them, and those are two negating ideologies. How do we feel about that?
What does not getting shot in the foot have to do with? I don't see the correlation.
Well, because the idea that I'm hearing a lot from women is that as Black women, they're never believed when they're saying that someone's abusing them. They're always made to be the problem. Because the first thing people said about her was, well, did she hit him? Because females think they can put their. So I'm trying to understand, or do we not take care of our women enough? And should we be I mean, it's kind of like an old question we asked in the first episode, but just with that thought process is like
that sort of, okay, say for instance how with the marches and stuff that's been happening over the summer, when we ask our white counterparts to say something and do something and put your body, like even in these marches, put your body in the forefront, because that your body will not get brutalized more, at the rate that Black bodies will get brutalized. So if we're asking the privileged among us to say something, to speak out and support, it's sort of the same to me in this situation. So we already know that men have a privilege, financial privilege, they don't have to worry about getting stopped when they're walking down the street. They don't have to take so many precautions in their everyday life in order to remain safe. That's a privilege. So if we're asking men to speak out and support and to not automatically assume the worst, especially when it comes to Black women, to me it's the same thing, in terms of race and this. So I don't see it as like how can you want equality, but then want Black men to protect you? It's like, that doesn't make any sense. To me.
Can I hear from? I kind of want to hear from some of the people who have been a little bit more quiet. So I kind of want to hear from Connor and Tabby, specifically Tabby, because I see her making all these faces. So let's go, Queen. Let's do it. What do you got to say?
I know it's not like me to be super quiet.
Right?
This is the rare thing for me. No, but I'm like, sometimes you just gotta observe and just take it all in and just hear everything. But well, the first question I couldn't even answer that because I didn't even watch the debate, so I had zero input to put into that anyway. But does equality negate domestic violence? It's a really interesting question, and I'm not exactly sure how to answer it. But what I will say is that racially, there is definitely a stigma among Black men and Black women where there are abusive relationships. I mean, domestic violence can happen in any ethnicity. Let me just clear the air on that. It doesn't matter. White, Black, yellow, green, purple. Domestic violence is domestic violence, and it's terrible. And you know, people need to be punished for that. So, you know, just want to put that out there. But no, I don't think to me personally, equality really doesn't have anything to do with domestic violence, because it's just wrong all the way across the board. Like I said, I do think racially, Black couples have a certain stigma behind kind of potentially being more abusive, and I don't really know kind of where that came from, to be honest. I really don't. I don't know where that stigma came from.
All the other
people can't take these celebrity situations, the Chris Brown or Rihanna and this situation. They can't take situations like that and lump the average Jane and Joes into those situations. We look at that image and then we want to just put it on everybody. And it's like, no.
Well, do you think that
is
I
not
feel like
everybody.
male celebrities, when they're
isn't.
accused of this stuff, and I'm going to direct this question to JC. I feel like male celebrities, when they're accused of this stuff, they get protected in a way that maybe normal people don't. Do you think that has truth to it?
I mean, you're talking about a community who romanticizes toxicity, and they capped for R. Kelly in excess of 20 years while he was abusing young women. So I don't think it's a matter of, I think it's a matter of it being normalized. I think we're okay with Brown choking a female on top of a balcony. I think we're okay with him punching Rihanna in the face. I think we're okay with Tory Lanez shooting Megan Thee Stallion and then putting out an album because he's on the top of the charts. If for nothing else, the industry knows that curiosity will sell. So this is why, you know, even if it's just investigation to further the argument against him, people are going to listen. You know, the industry is going to have their eye on him. Now, you know, tons of stories are out about how Tory Lanez and R. Kelly and several others have been batshit crazy, but the industry and the general public seem to love this ideology, and it's becoming more and more popular. You know, at the head of that class is Kanye West. So, you know, now we got a man who willingly admitted that he's off of his meds, and it's because it stifles his creativity, and zero people are trying to get him help. You know what I mean? So I think we started to normalize and become enamored with the dichotomy that exists between being famous and being flawed. But it's to a point where we don't want to rehabilitate it. We've normalized being awkward. We've normalized being anxious all the time. We've normalized being depressed all the time. Suicide songs are at the top of the charts. I think it's just the culture at this point. I think etymology took its place among social interactions where this is where we at. So I don't think it's really a defense. I think it's just the normal thing that happens.
Okay. Let me ask, because we're talking about a lot, like how Black this community deals with domestic violence. I kind of want to hear from members of another community, racially at least. What are some of the stigmas that you deal with as a white guy when it comes to these kind of issues around like domestic violence? Because I don't feel like it's just Black people that romanticize toxicity. I think it's an American thing, and you could debate that it is a worldwide thing, but I do think it's an American thing too. So how do you feel about that, Tim?
So I think JC actually had a really good answer there. I think he summed up my thoughts on it pretty clearly.
Even for your community.
Yeah, I think that's pretty universal just in how most people approach celebrities or popular people in general. I think that transcends racial class. When you say toxicity, can you specify that a little bit?
When I say toxicity, when I talk about toxic masculinity, which for anybody just joining us is an episode that you can find on YouTube and on Anchor. When I talk about toxic masculinity, I'm talking about this ideology behind being masculine that allows no room for emotion, caring, nurturing. It basically says in order to be a man, you must be
So I think that's heavily flawed, just in general. And I think, at least in my perspective, the people I hang out with, it's starting to turn the corner a little bit in where men can have emotion and still be a man, and we can show all of those, the full range of emotions, let's say. And in especially in the military, like getting help for mental problems is becoming much more common, as it should be. And so I think, at least like I said, with the people I hang out with, my friends, the people I interact with via social media, it's starting to turn the corner, which I think is a good thing. I think, you shouldn't be limited on the emotions that you can express in public just because of your gender. Yeah.
Right. I agree. Okay. Connor, how do you feel about this?
I think Key Watts was talking about women having to feel more safe walking like down the street and stuff, and I think that's the key difference between equality. Most equality feminist marches, it's more for legal and sociological equality. I don't think anyone's trying to debate that the average man is physically equal to the average woman. It's like clearly not true. There's a clear biological difference. Now, that's not to say that because of that difference, men can do certain jobs that women can't, because there are outliers. But generally, equality, I think, is speaking from a legal and sociological standpoint. So I think you can have equality between genders and sexes and still recognize domestic violence as an issue. As far as separation of races, and if certain races experience it more, I'm more interested thinking about it now if time has anything to do with it, because we're saying how the medias we consume kind of glorify it and make it more romanticized now. So that's the reason that there is more of it. But going against what Timmy is saying, like, I don't think that mental issues in the military are rising. I just think acceptance for it is. So people can now go seek help for it. I think the same might hold true for domestic violence, where I don't think rates are rising. It's just acceptance for speaking out against it is. So even though it's being romanticized in songs, I don't think that's increasing the amount of net domestic violence. I think more people are just finding the bravery to speak out against their abuser and seek help.
That's great. I actually want to talk to Alicia, but before I do, I want to point out this comment that just popped up. When men are the victims of domestic violence is trivialized, was the comment from the viewers. Alicia, how do you feel about this comment? Because I feel like this is something we hear a lot. Like, well, there are men out there who are not even just in heterosexual relationships, same-sex relationships, that are abused. And when a man asks for, I feel like men who are abused, it's even hard. It's hard for them to even be believed. I'm not saying they're on the same rate. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it seems to be trivialized. How do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, we don't know if it's at the same rate, because I feel like men have a harder time coming out to the public, because just verbalizing that almost it makes it seem like they were not man enough to protect themselves. So I think a lot more men are actually being abused that are nervous to speak about it, just because of the way that society would view them. Secondly, well, there was another part to your question.
Oh, she's pregnant. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I'm just happy. What did I say? I said, because it trivializes. Yeah, you said it trivializes in domestic violence. I don't know.
Okay, well, still, I'm saying that I think there are a lot more cases in men. We don't know if it's disproportionate between the two genders.
Why do you think men aren't believed? Because I don't think men. I think it's worse than a man won't say it. I feel like even if he does say it, he's not believed. Like, if a man tells you, "Oh, well, my wife," if a girl slaps a dude, we just expect him not to do anything, right? But like, if a girl continually beats up on a guy and he defends himself, no one's gonna look at him like, "Oh, he's a victim."
Right. So, okay, I'm not saying that this is my belief,
right,
first of all, but just thinking about it, men are typically physically stronger.
Right.
So to think that they are physically abused by a woman can be side-eye.
Right.
If you want to think about emotional abuse, that just started becoming more popular about how people can be emotionally abused.
But it's so real.
It's so real.
It's so real.
And then when you get to sexual abuse, this is going to sound bad, but when you think about the way that a woman is raped versus the way that a man could be raped, it's almost like how does this happen to a male? Because we know what has to happen in order for. So I think I don't necessarily have that mindset, but I can see where that can be part of the, I guess, the curiosity of why it's more trivialized in the male perspective.
Okay. I kind of want to use this to talk about something else. I just want to touch on this. I don't want to talk about it too much, but it's kind of in the idea of men protecting women and that kind of sort of thing. Gabrielle Union and NBC have finally reached an amicable, what's the word I want to use? Agreement about their separation. Anyone who doesn't know, she left amid, her and Julianne Hough left after their first season amid what's the word I want to use when you accuse somebody of something? Accusations. Amid accusations of...
You have pregnancy brain.
Right. You got it to me. Accusations of racial... I forget the word that they use. Basically, she felt like she wasn't being treated fairly, and there were too many people in her ear telling her she was being too black on the show. Like, your hair is too black, X, Y, and the third. So they finally reached their agreement. Now, the issue that a lot of people had was that Terry Crews didn't do anything to protect her in that situation. Or Julianne Hough, because apparently it wasn't just about a race thing, it was about a gender thing as well. So I just want to touch on that really quick. Tim, you raised your hand, but do you still have something to say? Because if not, we can move to our next current event.
No, I sorted it out with Connor in the comments.
You ain't be saving all the good stuff for the comments, bro.
No. I there was a misunderstanding where I was agreeing. Like, basically, we saw things the same way.
So then, as we talk about this, let's move into, I want to talk about this case that I read about in New Delhi, India. The reason I want to talk about this is because we're in America right now tripping about all this stuff that's going on over here. You know what I'm saying? And I just want to remind people that, there's some crazy stuff going on everywhere in this world. And it's hard to be an ally when you need an ally, but it's important to do that. So I want to shed light on this situation. I don't even know how long we're going to talk about it, but so let me pull this article up. So it was an article last night talking about this woman who was raped. That's what it is. She passed away after being gang violated. Apparently it's a caste system issue. She was of the lower caste, and some men of the upper caste literally just grabbed her up one day while she was feeding her family's animals in the farm, took her out somewhere, hurt her horribly, and she's been in the hospital ever since, clinging to life. And she passed recently. It is crazy to me reading this article because it's just such a different atmosphere. Over there, if you're convicted of rape, they execute you. This woman named Swati Maliwal, I'm probably saying that wrong, the head of the Delhi Commission for Women, went on a hunger strike and demanded that from now on, rape convictions are executed within 6 months or 6 weeks. 6 weeks. And so that's the difference there. They don't get a chance. They're executed. However, what they're saying is the country doesn't have the resources to investigate or bring these people to prosecution. I'm going to read y'all some numbers really quick before I open this up. It said that 33,658 cases were reported in 2017. That's 92 per day. And they said of those, only 10,000 were children. I'm sorry, not only 10,000 were children. And they say of those, only a handful ever convicted. So that's a huge issue that's going on there that I didn't know anything about. I say this not only just to discuss it, but also like really broaden your scope and see what's going on out, because I had no clue. Like, it was just, think about it, you have to think about that kind of way of living. Just because you're lower class, you have to worry about something like that happening to you while you're doing your daily chores. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to anyone if you would like to talk about that. I know it's a contentious subject, so if you don't, I feel that's fine as well.
That's horrific. I mean, just for starters, that is absolutely horrific. But this is not, unfortunately, this is not something that's uncommon within those kinds of cultures. And even in some African cultures, people sacrifice their children. It's absolutely horrific. I wouldn't even call that a religion, to tell you the truth. That's just thuggery, really. I wouldn't even call that religion, because religion indicates, I guess, or connotates, excuse me, that there's some kind of moral code or something, I guess. That's just outright criminal activity and murder. But remind me again what the question is that you're asking, so I can be specific.
It's really a question. I just was us responding to that story and how it would make you feel to be in that situation, how it makes you feel to be where you are with the issues that we have, just as an ally to people who are going through those things. Like, how can you help? What can you do to help? Or how do you feel about it, simply?
Well, I feel disgusted. And again, it just proves that we Americans are so spoiled, and we just got to stop complaining about stuff that's not even that important. Because like you said, there's a lot going on everywhere around the world, and a lot worse situations. But as far as the aspect of how short that window is between the crime and them being executed, I feel kind of torn in a way. And here, let me explain why I say that. I feel torn because the emotional female side of me feels that capital punishment is deserved, especially if you kill somebody. If you outright kill somebody, goodbye. And I would want that capital punishment to be based on the crime that the person actually committed, not because of lack of resources. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I get you have lack of resources, but let's make sure that we're not forgetting, okay, this person actually committed a very severe crime. That's why they should be disciplined the way they should be. But when it's warranted, I'm absolutely a proponent of capital punishment. And I think in this situation and other ones like it, capital punishment is absolutely deserved. Absolutely. So for me, like I said, just as a woman, as a female, kind of separating the emotional response to it to, okay, the legal logistics, I'd say. But yeah, that's where I'm at on it. It's just like, you gotta go.
Keisha, how do you feel about the idea behind these being, and someone in the comments said that they heard Nigeria passed a law to castrate rapists, may have been fake news. And I've heard something similar as well. I don't know which country, but I have heard that happening. What do you feel about these kind of consequences for people who commit these kind of crimes?
I definitely, of course, believe there should be consequences to those types of crimes. However, we're used to the legal system, no matter how crazy it is over here, and trying to apply it to how they do things in their country. And, typically over here, there is, evidence is collected, a trial is had, witnesses are put forth.
Right.
They have a defense team. It's a whole structure. I am not familiar with how their legal system is set up over there.
Right.
But obviously, killing someone and then not having like a trial, I'm assuming they're not having one of those, is, a little bit wonky for me when it comes to that.
I'm a believer that death should never be the consequence of any type of punishment.
What about child rape?
I go back and forth on that because I'm like, if someone kills somebody in my family, I don't Yeah, just I don't know.
I don't think that we as humans should not, or as mankind should not have the say when somebody's life should be over.
So I'm on the fence with it. Part of me agrees with Alicia just because of the fact. On top of it, unless you have like indisputable evidence, like an undoctored, like heavily verifiable video of like the crime being committed, like there's so many people in prison that like have been wrongfully accused, wrongfully imprisoned, like and so
wrongfully put to death.
Right, exactly. And so that's why I would have a really hard time being like, oh yeah, we should kill people that rape people. But on the other hand, I think if you had like indisputable evidence, like mainly like a video or something, but
then even going back to the death penalty, the whole requirement punishment, the whole point is to be like the punishment is supposed to deter crime,
right?
And if your punishment is death, because we know that is an option as a punishment, you would think that would deter people from committing crimes, and it doesn't. So that's why I'm like on the fence about that sort of thing. So
I've never heard that angle of it. JC, how do you feel?
Am I muted? Okay. Am I?
We hear you.
Okay, cool. I had to check because honestly, I don't. The law is the law. I mean, I guess it's up to the jurisdiction of others. I'm not about to decide somebody's life, but I mean, I'm also.
Are you talking about the U.S. law? Or are you talking about?
Wait a minute.
The law is the law.
There's a second half to the show that's going to explain why I just said that. So we'll get into that later.
Okay.
But the law is the law. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, when it comes to sexual assault, I think the more honest question to be had, and I got some sponsors that are going to look at this and probably cut my head off, but I live in the same area where the most popular esports sex scandal happened, and that was in my region where I tournament organized. So if you guys aren't familiar with who Cinnamon Dunson is, feel free to give yourself a Google. But needless to say, when it comes around these cases, I just see things a little bit differently, and I'm more honestly concerned with validity than I am about punishment. Because how many times do wrongfully incarcerate, wrongfully accuse, and then we're talking about now wrongfully executing somebody? If the issues around this scenario are blatant and we can come to a general consensus that something did in fact happen, then yes, we can definitely take action in accordance to whatever laws may be in whatever area that we're living in across the globe. But I feel like when we're coming to the conclusion, the more serious nature about this narrative is the truth. I think we're on the cusp. I don't know if you guys know, but we're on the cusp to what's called the deepfake age. So we're almost at the point while y'all playing around with these little face apps where people are about to be able to digitally alter actual evidence, and you will not be able to tell the difference between one picture or another. So I think truth and fact finding at this point is far more important than execution. That's some antiquated ass Clint Eastwood philosophy at high noon in a Western of Bonanza, you know what I'm saying, that we're talking about here. Let's get to the truth of what's happening in modern day sexual assault, and then let's really start having a conversation about how we punish that, because do we do death or do we try to do rehab?
Do you think there's rehabilitation for?
Isn't that what prison was originally supposed to be?
Let's be clear. Prison originally was not for rehabilitation. It wasn't. True. It was free. Well, let me stop. The only reason I'm gonna say stop is because I don't know for a fact where the whole prison. I'm talking about the American prison systems.
Yeah.
I know penal colonies because like Georgia was a penal colony and Australia was a penal colony. Yeah. I know that all prisons weren't, but I know some prisons systems, especially religiously, were started as a means to help a person get over something that was hindering them. So there are some that are for rehabilitation's sake. But the question is, which is a whole other topic on itself, shouldn't criminal justice be about rehabilitation? Because to me, it's much more about punishment. Because being someone who's entangled with the prison system and has been for like the last 3 or 4 years, it's very difficult to get out once you're in. Very difficult. A traffic ticket will screw you up. And a lot of times it's depending on your officer. If you have an officer who's like new and wants to make a name, they might give you infractions every chance they get just because they can. So,
and you also have a situation where, going off of what you were saying, the whole, is the prison system set up for rehabilitation or punishment or whatever? You have people who go to prison, they complete their sentence, they're on probation, and then they bitch to get off of probation. They don't want you. You have probation systems where they don't want you to pay a lump sum of your probation. They want you to pay only a certain amount at a time to keep you on there longer. You have a situation where in Florida, where you have the law now that prevents felons who are on probation from voting until they pay their probation. And so you have a situation where you have people that are raising money for people to get to pay their fees off. And now you have a lot of politicians in Florida who are now questioning even that. So it's like, or do you really want them to be rehabilitated and be able to rejoin society right, and not have this burden on their back when they fulfilled everything? Or are you just or is this whole system, I mean, we know the answer, is set up for a specific reason in a specific time?
We know that the penal system is an economy. Go ahead, Tim.
I think this is one thing that almost everyone agrees upon, is that the prison system and the penal system and just criminal justice system as a whole needs a lot of reform, restructure.
I even think some police feel that way.
Yeah,
it's weird because I've definitely had
everyone I talk to feels that way. I've
definitely been ready to go to court and had a police officer like look at my charge and be like, "Oh, bro, man, you don't seem like you should be here." Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think that it is a universal thing where everybody's looking at the criminal justice system.
One of those things that we all agree on that might bring us together.
But if we dealt with that first,
can I pop in here real quick?
Sure.
Just real quick.
Yeah.
Just real quick. I'm just sitting back here listening to Key, like, okay. But just to go back to your question about is there rehab, and I'll put in, is there effective in brackets rehab? Here's the thing. There can be resources up the wazoo for people to have, whether it's rehab from that, rehab from substance abuse, rehab from anything. But here's my thing. People can have all the resources in the world, but if they don't want to change, they don't want to change. That's the thing. The people have to be willing to change their behavior. And some people are just permanently hardwired to be who they're going to be. That's just it. I think I will say this though. There can be improvement, definitely room for improvement. I will say that there's room for improvement in making resources more available, like with the military, for example, and their recovery when they come back home. There definitely needs to be way more resources for them to help them with the rehab that they need, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, all that. So that's one example where there's definitely room for improvement. Go ahead, I know you itch it over there.
I'm looking. I'm checking this out. No, I'm listening.
But yeah, I agree.
Let me get Connor, and then Alicia, you spoke on this, haven't you? Let me get Connor, and then we'll go to one more small little topic before we hit our next commercial break.
I think it's really important to recognize the difference between our class system and India's class system before I talk about this, because India has a caste system that's based on a socio-religious brackets rather than socioeconomic brackets. It's real. We can't really compare the two. I would much rather obviously be in a socioeconomic structured society, and I'm very happy that I am. And I think it is horrible what happened. As far as capital punishment, I'm against it, mainly because it costs taxpayers more money to execute someone than it does to keep them in prison for the rest of their life. Another reason that I am against it, and I saw Tim kind of look confused. Like I did a whole presentation on this. It costs the taxpayer like significantly more money to execute any individual inmate compared to keeping them in jail for the rest of their lives, regardless.
I 100% believe it because the government finds a way to fuck everything up like that.
Yeah.
Yep. And also, I don't know what not existing is, so I don't know if that's a worse or better punishment than having a bad existence in jail.
Deep.
So
that is deep.
I think
that's a little deep. Okay. Those are great responses. We're gonna move to one last topic, and it kind of lumps in kind of everything we were talking about. I'm gonna talk about some points, and then I'm gonna hit my main thing. So they're doing a Lion King sequel. A sequel to The Lion King, the one that just came out, the one with Beyonce. But it's a prequel about young Mufasa, and it's going to be directed by the director of Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk. Look at JC, like, why? Which were my thoughts exactly. Like, I was like, so Lion King 2, there is a Lion King 2.
I have no comment.
I remember there was a Lion, that's fine. There was a Lion King 2. And Lion King 2 was animated, and basically it wasn't a bad movie. It just didn't have the box office success. But I guess they're trying to capitalize off the box office success of what happened last year, and then they're going to do another sequel. I actually don't have a problem with it. That's not even the topic. So that got me thinking about all of these things that we're seeing in the industry about inclusivity standards, inclusion standards, and such. So ABC just came out with theirs. The Oscars came out with theirs a few months ago. CBS has them too. I read through a few of the standards. I'm going to summarize them because I don't have time to go look up the document. And when I say that their standards, I'm talking about ABC. Basically, their standards were saying from now on, at least 50% of the people in every situation need to not be white. 50% or more. Whoa. That is me like super summarizing it. They went in more detail, and it's available online if you want to find out. But they said at least 50% from now on need to not be. They don't say it like that. They say 50% needs to be underrepresented groups. That's the verbiage.
So it could be the new term they're using now, BIPOC.
BIPOC.
It can be a white woman. It could be white women in that mix. Because they're under. They're women and they're white, and they could be underrepresented. Just like we know that affirmative action in this country has benefited white women way more than people of color.
That's not what confuses me. What confuses me is how we're considering white women BIPOC. I'm literally confused because I thought BIPOC was Black, indigenous, other people of color.
I have seen that term in the industry. I have seen that term being used in connection, and have seen a white woman being categorized under that term. I don't know how they've gotten that, but that's what I've seen.
We talked about this on this show where I said I don't like that term. I use that term because it's a useful way not to be offensive to people who aren't. But to me personally, I get very frustrated when people conflate the Black struggle with other racial struggles because it's not the same. And to me, it's not the same. And as someone from an underrepresented group, we're not saying your struggle isn't real, but we're saying that our struggle is a whole different beast. And so what happens in moments like this, and this is going to be unpopular, what happens in moments like this, when Black people are finally standing up, everybody else wants to stand up with us. And then our noise gets pushed to the back, which is why it never gets heard, which is why we have to keep doing this shit. Rodney King, Emmett Till, Rodney King, Trayvon Martin, because then it becomes, oh, let's stand up for Black people. Let's stand up for everybody who's colored. Let's not talk about it anymore. So I feel like it's important to separate the two issues because one of these issues is just never getting actually resolved. However, having said that, how do we feel about these inclusion standards other than there are definitely some loopholes in it, I feel, because I mean, if 50% of the people aren't white, that just means that 50% are definitely white. And then everybody else could be like, some of this, some of that, some of this, but then there's still going to be a majority of one group in the room. Keisha?
Okay, I'm not going to get specific because employers.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Not getting specific, but what I have noticed over the summer with the ramp up of people being, organizations being called out for the lack of inclusivity, and more importantly in the boardroom and not just in front of the camera, behind the camera. I'm a behind the camera person. So what I'm seeing is, as we've seen, not just in this industry, in entertainment industry, we've seen oftentimes they'll promote a diversity officer. They'll create that role for someone instead of just hiring or making sure the pool of talent that they're looking at is a diverse pool of talent. They first start with that person who's a diversity officer, and then you tend to see a year or two after, not much has changed in the organization. So, and you oftentimes see in these discussions about inclusivity, it's like, okay, we need more training, instead of realizing that you have oftentimes a lot of people of color, Black people, because I'm Black, so us, that are already trained in this particular skill set. And it's all about access. It's all about opening the door and not just looking in your bubble of people to promote for a job.
Right.
That's something that I have a tendency to see in my particular background in the industry.
And they definitely talked about that in the inclusion standards. It wasn't just about actors and actresses, and it wasn't just about directors and producers. It was literally about everybody in every facet of it, which impressed me because they went deeper than just the visual representation that children and whatever going to see. They actually went to who's going to be behind the scenes too, because I feel like that adjustment in and of itself will create a lot of diversity. And me and JC was going back and forth the other day about there needing to be more diversity in writing rooms and such.
Yeah, and I've been in on those conversations with executives. Can't be specific, but I'm trying to. We're having those conversations, and once again, it goes back to the network and the pool that you're looking at. If you have executives or producers or head writers, showrunners who are not going out of their way to look at a large swath of talent and not just focusing on who they know and who their writers know, and it tends to be, even in LA, even though LA tends to act like it's, the liberal,
right,
inclusive paradise, it is not. I'm from the South, and I can tell you it is not. And when it comes to this industry, but when they're only looking at their friends or their friends' friends, they tend to be their white friends, and their friends' friends are also white. So they're going to then give them resumes of people who are white. So if we're getting blocked on that side of things as well. And also this sort of idea that we're not already trained and well-versed on, say, editing or post-producing or being a colorist, working in music, that we are already not educated on that. And we're not just, and it's just about opportunity.
I want to hear from.
I just want to say one more thing. I'm so sorry.
Come on, Keisha.
One more thing. I just have to say that. And you often have times, because can be on the hiring side of things. Try not to go too much. You oftentimes see where people are hired in positions who do not know what the fuck they're doing, and they got the position because they knew somebody, and they're afforded the opportunity to learn on the job, whereas people who look like us are not. So there you go.
We have someone in the comments, and because we might have to wrap this a little bit sooner than I want, because I want to go to the next topic, or the main topic. So they want to hear from the white people on the panel. And so I guess, I don't know, I'm going to say Tim.
Bro, I got a hot take.
Yeah, and Tim, I think this might be offensive to some. I don't mean it to be, but Tim's a little whiter than Connor is to me. At least the kind of white that this guy wants to be. I know, Look, I mean, I can say that about Tim because I can say that. Go ahead.
So generally, I just want to start off by saying generally, in 90% of situations, I think a meritocracy is the best means.
Explain what meritocracy means for anyone who doesn't.
It's based off of merit, so competency, basically. Who's the best fit for the job? I do think there are certain situations. For example, I think the entertainment industry is one where that's not always the case, because generally the discrepancy between top actors and, say the top 200 actors, the difference is nominal, right? Like it's very little. So I think mandating certain inclusion of minorities is, I think it's something worth investing in. But I think this topic reminds me a lot of a podcast that I listened to between Coleman Hughes and Neil deGrasse Tyson, when they were talking about just race and their experiences as Black men in the world. And Neil deGrasse Tyson grew up in the 60s and 70s, and something he talked about during this was how at one point in American history, Black community started doing all Black things. And a lot of people hated it. A lot of white people hated it, and it was heavily fought against. But he said what that did was it normalized the recognition of Black people being able to do things. For example, seeing the example he used was stage plays, right? And so seeing that Black play actors, what are they called? I don't know.
Actors.
Okay, yeah, Black actors. I didn't know if they were called something different during Black plays.
Chitlin Circuit, that's an old school name for it.
I think he's talking about just actors versus film actors.
Like Broadway shows.
He's talking about film actors versus stage actors.
Okay, yeah. So the example he used was Broadway shows, and how traditionally it was very, very hard for Black people to get into Broadway shows, at least the popular ones. And so they basically started doing the same shows, the same story, just with an all Black cast. And more people saw them. And as more and more people saw them and realized that they were great actors and they could do everything the same, and, it became more and more common for them to be integrated. And as they were integrated, the need to do all Black casts fell away. And now he said that Broadway is one of the most heavily multicultural things compared to other things like film and stuff like that.
Comparable, but still, like, to me as a person in this industry, it's unfortunate the way it is for people who are not white in the industry, because what happens is you always find one of us in a space. It's very hard for us to all work together, because when there's too many of us in a space, it then gets categorized as a Black thing. So then it's not at all promoted towards white people. Like, to me, I'm gonna use this example. Set It Off is one of the best films that has ever been made. And white people, please call on me after this. I talk to white people about that, and they know everybody in the movie, but they have no clue what that movie is. And that to me, Queen Latifah, all of them should have won Oscars. That whole movie should have won Oscars. That is one of the best films that's ever been created.
It's not mainstream enough.
But because it was a big studio, big budget, great.
That is a good movie. That is a good movie.
Every single actor who's in it, them. They've headlined before. The only difference, the studio didn't promote it to white people. Any Black person can quote it line for line, and that's the frustrating thing. Somebody in the comments said, why do we have to mandate ethnic diversity? The frustrating thing is this: we have to mandate it so that it's normalized, so that when people don't see all white people, they still think that that's for them. Because a lot of people, if they don't see all white people, they don't watch it. Even people of other races. Like, when's the last time you watched an all Hispanic TV show? You know what I'm saying? It's been a while for me. The closest thing I ever got was Ugly Betty, but I watched that motherfucker religiously. Either way, my point is, I'm sorry with the curse, but my point is, like, we don't get used to seeing people who aren't white. We think white is the default, and that's by design. Yeah. JC, you want to say something? I'm sorry, Tim. JC wants to say something. Let me go back to you, and then we're gonna wrap it up.
JC, let me wrap up real quick, because it's gonna be real quick. I ultimately think it's a really good thing, though. I think the entertainment field is one that is like a really good place. I don't think mandated ethnic diversity in all places is appropriate, but there in a lot of them, I think it is.
I don't want to invite y'all to that conversation, but I do want to invite y'all to eliminate the thought that white people don't think that what we do is popular. I would really like. I'm not here to,
popular,
aggregate that. Y'all think Set It Off ain't popular until y'all
say that again.
What? I said I want to invite you guys to the thought that it's a myth that white people aren't enamored with what we do.
Oh, yeah.
So to say that it doesn't sell, yes, it does. We're outselling Taylor Swift right now on the Billboard charts with WAP. Ain't nobody even thinking about Taylor Swift right now. But people are secretly obsessed with culture. They are.
I didn't say that it doesn't. I said that it's not as well known because it wasn't promoted that way.
No, it's well known. It's just not well talked about.
I disagree.
But is it well known because white? Is it not well known because the white people don't know it?
I'm not saying it's not well known. Period. I'm saying
it's not well known because white people won't talk about it. But we definitely know about it.
It should have been because it wasn't marketed that way. That's all.
For the whole of a lot of things that
the proof is in the pudding because it didn't get any sort of critical acclaim. Queen Latifah got nominated for Oscar for what movie? Where she was the only what in the movie? She got nominated for freaking Chicago, where she was in that movie for 5 minutes, sang a song, shook her titties, and that's Oscar-worthy acting when she played Cleo and transformed her entire being to play that part. And it got no flowers. She got an Oscar for being the token. And who's
judging the Oscars? This is what I'm talking about. They see it and they know it. They're just not talking about it. At the end of the day, they're talking about it at their kitchen table, but they're not going to let you know that you're talking about it. They wouldn't have diversity rules in the Academy right now if they were talking about it.
There's a lot of
so they know they just don't want to acknowledge it. I stand by that wholeheartedly.
And that's fine.
But it also, in terms of the Oscars and the people who are voting in the Oscars, you have like this huge initiative that has been happening over the years where they're trying to, vote in a more inclusive group of people because you have a huge majority of the Oscar voters that are white and who probably choose not to see those movies. I don't know if you look at the Hollywood Reporter's like anonymous Oscar ballot where you have these anonymous voters who make some pretty interesting comments about films that are predominantly Black casted. And they have, it's downright dismissive about those projects because they don't care to look at it or vote on it because like Duryea said, if it's more than 3 Black people in the movie, it's gonna get glossed over.
And that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that they don't think that what we do is popular. There's a long history of people in this country using what Black people do to make money. What I'm saying is that when it comes to being held of too high esteem, they don't even look at it if it's got too many Black people in it. They're only going to look at it if it's got a lot of white people in it. So Black people, like Viola Davis, her first Oscar nomination was for Doubt, where she was in that movie for 5 minutes, acted her ass off. She definitely acted her ass off, but she was the only Black person in the film. When that play was on Broadway, there was 1 Black woman in it and she got nominated. It's always that. They're not going to even look at our stuff is what I'm saying because they see too many of us. However,
Duryea, you made a good point earlier. Kind of towards the beginning of this segment that I actually agree with. I know, shocker. I actually agree with something you said, but like, oh shoot. But no, it was a point that I actually had in my head. Where you said you're basically saying there's this pattern of inclusivity depending on kind of what's going on in the world. And that's one thing that frustrates me to no end is how when there's these racial issues that are going on in the world, suddenly the people of color is trending again, like a hashtag. And it's like, can we please, for the love of everything that is diversity, stop with this trendy diversity nonsense, please? Can we stop that? Like, please stop.
All right, everybody. So we're about to go to our commercial break, which will be about 1 minute. Before we go there, I want you to make sure you stay strapped to your seats because we're going to come back and we're going to talk about our main topic for the night, which is weaponized religion. We'll be right back.
long have you all been married? How long have we been married?
When this video posts, what
can wash away?
Anyway, pretty much 7 years, pretty much.
Nothing but the blood.
Here she goes again from the last video. Trying to get me to smell something. Who can make?
Sing, babe. Behold, I can. Nothing but the blood of Jesus.
Hey, Lord.
That was the Mompreneur plug. Tamara Francis is a YouTube mompreneur. She runs her own channel and she runs her own company, which is a education company for children. She also does everything in tandem with her husband, who you saw pictured there. Their YouTube subscription just went over 10,000 people. So make sure you go subscribe. Go to youtube.com/c/mompreneur plug. Is it the mompreneur plug? I should know that. She's gonna be so happy that I said that wrong. Also, June's Beats. He makes custom beats, compositions for music, movies, anything you need. Admin at WoeNellyMedia.com if you want to know more information about prices, or we can discuss a consultation. Now, it's time for the get down. We're going to talk tonight about weaponized religion. I have been waiting so long to talk about this because I grew up a Christian. I was raised in a Christian household. My mother was Seventh-day Adventist. My father was Jehovah's Witness. My grandmother was Baptist. And, so I was always at church. Oh, my God. And my aunt, she used to pinch me when I used to act up in church because I couldn't sit still. She used to wrap her arms like this and grab my skin. And she would tell me if I screamed that she gonna pinch harder. So I had one of them church families where you better not act up in this church kind of stuff. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so my family's relationship really isn't with religion, isn't really what got me thinking this. It's more so what I see outside of that. Like everyone I know has a great relationship with, with their beliefs, and they don't really force their beliefs on anyone else. Granted, my father was a Jehovah's Witness, so I have knocked on my fair share of doors on Saturday morning, okay? But other than that, I don't feel it's very forced upon people in my family. Outside, I see a lot of that. I see a lot of that right now when we talk about pro-choice versus pro-life, and people are, I feel like that is an imposing of your religious beliefs on someone else. I think religion is also weaponized in a way that people are made to feel guilted into worshiping much more than they're made to feel invited into worship. And you can say that, you see that reverberate throughout the multitude of wars that have been fought in the name of this God or that, murders, all this kind of stuff that you see, fighting violence, the violence against a lot of trans people. A lot of it is because people are saying it's demonic and all this other stuff. I've just seen so much of it be used in a way that I was never raised to understand religion. I'm a Buddhist. And as a Buddhist, which is a lot of people don't consider that a religion, it's more of a philosophy. But the practice is it's much more about like understanding and having reverence for everything, because everything is connected. So because of that, my thought process is always, well, why don't people who want people to love their God show them love? And that always freaks me out because I don't understand it. So I want to open up this conversation. I want us to have this conversation. I think we have a very balanced panel here. So let go. Who wants to go first? Oh, wow. Nobody? Oh my God.
No, I'll go. I got you.
What?
Wait, what was the general question? I'm sorry, I was reading the chat.
Is religion a weapon?
I think so. Okay, so I think religion, by some people, is weaponized.
Okay.
I also think the lack of religion is weaponized against religion.
Break that down.
So I think a lot of people try and say, like the destruction of religion, or not destruction, like the anti-religion movement. might be a better way to put it. I feel like is gaining a lot of momentum, especially in politics.
Do you think it's anti-religion, or is it trying to separate religion and state?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So that's trying to separate the two, basically. Okay. In maybe taking it like a little bit too far, but I think for the most part, I think like you said, most people I know have a good religion, a good relationship with their belief system, and don't necessarily try and force it upon other people. But that's also just my experience. So
okay,
it's super anecdotal.
I kind of want to ask a overall question, and I want y'all to be honest. I want you to be honest now. Have you yourself ever weaponized religion? Let's go around in a circle. Let's start. She's shaking her head. Tab. What's your response to that question?
I'm sorry. I'm laughing over here. I'm just like, oh boy, it's about to get hot. It's about to get hot up here. No, but I think I'm kind of the dark horse here because my dad's a pastor, and we're not non-denominational. Can't say that word. Christian church, and it just brings a whole different perspective. But no, we don't. And let me clarify something with you, Duryea. What define weaponize? I want to make sure that I'm clear on what you mean by weaponize.
I mean, instead of using religion as a device or as a tool to unite people, use it as a tool to either judge, condemn, criticize, make people feel guilty, justify doing negative things to someone in the name of your religion. That's what I mean by weaponize.
Okay. No, I don't weaponize my faith. I'm very open about it and very upfront about it because, hey, we live in America. It's a free country and there's freedom of speech. Hello, amendment.
Sorry. There you go.
Oops. Okay. I was like, am I good? What happened? I could cut off.
You're good.
Okay. But no, in this country, we have freedom of speech. We have freedom of religion. So we have those privileges that have been in place for centuries. So am I going to use that? Am I going to weaponize that? No, I'm not. I turn a lot of what I say on myself. I said, hey, this is what I do. This is what I practice. This is who I am. And I turn a lot of it onto myself. I don't force people. I don't force it on people, but I'm very open and very direct about it. And I mean, however people take it, they take it. I mean, everybody has a different perspective and everybody is going to absorb things differently. That we communicate differently. But I'm used to opposition. I've had it my whole life being a minister's child. So I've gotten it because of being female, Black, Christian. Those three have been the target points my whole life. And people are like, yeah, right. You don't go through nothing. Yes. In fact, I've been on the opposing or the receiving end, I should say, of what would be considered weaponized religion. So I've experienced it myself. And I'm just like,
in what way?
Wait a minute.
You don't mind sharing.
Well, let's say, for example, someone comes from a religion of like peace and love and all that, and they'll be the first people to cuss me out and call me the N-word and call me everything but a child of the Lord.
I'll curse you out real
quick. I'm just like, okay, right. Cool, but no.
Is that weaponized religion if they're not doing it in the name of like me? I'll curse you out, but I'm not gonna tell you Buddha told me to do it. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what I think. I get what you're saying about the hypocrisy that exists between the religions, but I'm talking about more specifically. So I kind of want to ask, if it's okay, I want to ask Connor about his answer to the question. So the answer, we're going to kind of just go quick responses, just kind of getting an idea. Have you ever weaponized religion? How or how not?
No. I think I'm kind of an anomaly in the sense that like both of my parents were Jewish, but I wasn't raised religiously Jewish, so like that's more of a race for me. If I do have any religious uh, identification, I don't. It falls more with like a pantheistic religion, but I haven't really like chosen one. But no, I haven't ever done that to anyone. I think it's because I don't really have that tribe to rally
But do you
around.
consider yourself spiritual?
Well, yeah, I think that, like I said, I believe more in like pantheism, that God is the universe. He is the painting rather than the painter. Like that's kind of more where my beliefs go to. So I guess that more entails spirituality, but I haven't really found a religion that I like wholeheartedly agree with. I think a lot of when religion is weaponized is from kind of toxic tribalism, but I'll talk more about
Cassie,
that later.
we haven't heard from you in a little minute. How do you feel about you're muted, like you're muted.
I'm sorry, I was having technical difficulties. I don't know what was going on.
It's okay, it's all good. So the question was, have you yourself ever weaponized religion? Used it as a means to maybe guilt someone, condemn them, try to get them to do what you wanted to, or to justify action against that person?
No, everything that I say comes from my opinion, because I'm entitled to one. But there are people, like my mom, she's a Christian, and everything that she says is always like, oh, God this and God that. And I feel like she does a lot, like especially like when it comes to more serious topics like abortions and the LGBT community. That would, like, me and her will never see eye to eye with that, because it's like she only can give me religious reasons of why she feels like those things are wrong, but she can never prove to me, like she will never give me an opinion of why she personally thinks it's wrong. So I feel like she does it, but I've never done it.
So I kind of want to go to Faith after that, Alicia Faith, and basically because I know that I get what she's saying, because the idea of it is like, okay, you can't tell me why you personally don't. So you're basically using your religion as a means to feel comfortable spreading negativity about these people.
Isn't that still a personal belief though?
Well, I mean, to me, no. To me, it's a personal belief. If it, I get what you're saying. It straddles the line. I feel like if it's a personal belief that's informed so heavily by your religion, I would put it in the religious belief category.
Yeah, that's not a personal belief, because she doesn't personally feel that way. She feels like it's that way because of what she was raised on. It's not coming from her directly. It's coming from her growing up in church and them preaching about it all the time. And that annoys me, because it's like, be your own person. And even though I do believe in God, I'm not going to say that I'm a Christian, because I don't follow the Bible at all. But if she wants to come to me with her religious beliefs, then I should throw some back at her. She had me before she was married. That's a sin too. You can't pick and choose what's a sin and what's not a sin.
Alicia?
So,
I see.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be the first one to say yes, I have, and I guess I probably still do, but I intentionally try not to. But I think it has been ingrained in me, being a Black girl from the South and a Christian. So a lot of what was wrong and what was right was based on what I learned in the church house and what they told me on that good Christian Sunday morning. And I can say just one example. My mom used to take me to a church. I don't think it was Kojic. I'm not quite sure what denomination it was, but it was down to the point where women should not get their ears pierced and they shouldn't wear
I've heard that women shouldn't wear pants.
I remember looking, and I used to look at my friends at school like, "Ooh, girl, you going to hell. You got on shorts, and your mama put you on those shorts. What's wrong with your mama? She wants you to go to hell." So, like, those are things that I grew up with. It's ingrained in me. So I have to intentionally not weaponize religion. And because I have some beliefs and I have some things that I believe in personally, but I am intentionally separating my religious beliefs away from my political beliefs. And that's really hard to do. But it's something
at
that
least
I'm
I think that's
intentional
great
about.
because I think we all do that at times. Like I know I do that. I'm going out of order. I'm gonna go to Keisha after this. I know I do it personally because I definitely do it incredibly violent. I don't understand it, so I'll definitely use my spiritualism as a means to like tell them why they're being violent is so screwed up. But I mean, I don't try to do it to hurt people, and I realize I think lately that it can come as condescending because I don't like my religion doesn't really like hell isn't really something. I don't think I'm new to the practice, but they don't really talk so much about the consequences of your action being hell. They really just talk more about like cause and effect. So if you do something, as you cause something, there's going to be an effect. So with that, there's it's not, and so I talked a lot about that. Like I told somebody the other day, you know, it's bad that you put so much negative energy out there, but then me saying that to that person is me putting negative energy out there. So it is a balancing thing that I have to do. Tim, you leaned forward, so I'm not sure, but Keisha, Tim, who want to go?
Go ahead, Keisha.
I can't hear you, lady.
I don't know if I don't recall ever using religion as a weapon. I've had it used against me. I mean, I think a lot of us can sit here and say that, especially, you know, I'm from the South, from Georgia. So you grew up hearing like, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, you're going to go to hell, or God is watching, or you see it in the church oftentimes where there is someone in the church who everyone knows is gay. And everyone knows is gay because everyone talks about it, but and they act like it doesn't exist, but then they'll make a comment if this person decides to live in their truth about you know,
absolutely,
their sexual preferences. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, that's a sin. But you oftentimes have in the church where you have the pastor who's sleeping with people in the choir. You have the church collection plate. People are stealing from that. You have, you know, a whole plethora of things that are going on in the church. Like it's lot, you know, gossip season up in there. But you have oftentimes those same people who use religion as a weapon, as it was used against them. Like it's passed down generation to generation. And I think with this generation of people that are coming up, the millennials and Gen Zers, we're going through a lot of spiritual transitions ourselves to make sure that we sort of break that dynamic. And also we're very open in, you know, maybe not being into Christianity anymore or organized religion in general and deciding, you know what, I'm going to find my own way, what I like personally that fits into my life. And it has meaning to my life. And I'm going to be happy about it. And I don't care if you don't like it. And I'm not going to be made to feel guilty if I choose not to go to church or I choose to celebrate a higher power on my own accord. So I feel like we're, especially with this quarantine thing, people are in a lot of self-discovery in 2020. And that's a beautiful thing.
Do you want to go, Tim, or JC?
I can go because JC is probably going to bring some fire. So,
see, he introduced himself like that, and you're like, "Oh, he's that guy. Great, let's do it." All right, go ahead.
No, I just JC's brought up a lot of good points. I think we got off on the wrong foot, but I think we see that more eye to eye than we thought we did. Anyways, I have mainly secular views. I believe
secular. Help me.
Not religious.
Okay.
Like not anti-religious, just not related to religion at all.
Are you atheist?
So I'm not atheist because I don't think. I'm not atheist because I don't think there's no possible. The idea of faith. Well, the idea of faith is that you don't have any certainty that what you're believing in is real, and that's the whole purpose of faith, right? And so,
what you are, Tim, is I'm just sorry to interrupt. What you are is agnostic. Agnosticism is basically which is what I really prescribe to, but I'm a Buddhist who is agnostic. Basically, there's no way in my understanding that I could ever discern whether God was real or not.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I know that there's something bigger than me, and I'm fine with that.
Oh, see, and that's where it gets iffy. I don't even know if there's anything bigger than me. Like, how the fuck am I supposed to know, right? Like, I don't know if there's anything bigger than me. Like, could be. Who knows?
Timmy,
but, like,
Timmy, inhale and exhale. That's pretty big. Anyway, I'm done.
Oh. But so I grew up Catholic. Like, I was baptized. I had communion. I went to a Catholic grade school. I went to a Catholic high school. And just organized religions in general put me off in my experience from hypocrisy, loads and loads and loads of hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Probably more so than any other, probably more hypocrisy in the Catholic, specifically Catholic organization than the politics in American culture right now. And that's saying a lot. So I think organized religion has just put me off a lot, and I believe very heavily in science and stuff. So yeah, you can't weaponize something you don't believe in. And
okay, JC, what's good?
I'm a gay Christian. I do believe that the evangelical church is a cult right now. I believe that the Baptist church has become something of a cult right now. I also face persecution from a lot of homosexuals when I tell them that I'm a gay Christian, so much so that I stop. So I don't weaponize religion, but I think everybody else on this panel, and multitudes of other people speak from trauma in this generation from religion. And I think what makes religion sacred when you're having a discussion is keeping it pure. I think Christianity is a really contentious conversation in this country simply because people like to equate certain sins to be greater than others when that's really not the case. People like to argue the Bible when the Bible specifically states in the New Testament, you're not supposed to do that if you are a real Christian. It also states that you're supposed to love people and you're supposed to hate what they do. You know what I'm saying? There are so many different things that today, being a gay Christian, when I look in the Bible and I see in Revelation that John blinked his eyes and he saw a number that he couldn't define, I see exactly what he's talking about. Because today, a lot of people have warped religion to a point that people think it's like establishmentarianism, but no, that's just false prophecy in Christian doctrine. You know, that's what we call it. But because we speak from so much trauma and hurt, and we start arguing and getting real emotional about what we've been through in institutionalized false prophecy, we then lose our way of, oh, well, all of a sudden, I'm just not with it because, you know, if you say I'm not with it because I believe X, Y, and Z, but I think my question, which I try not to weaponize, is do you really feel that way because it's how you've become, or do you really feel that way because the church hurt you? Galatians talks about this. It says you were running a good race, who got in front of you and stopped you from knowing the truth. And a lot of preachers preach that in church, but I don't think they really understand what they're saying, because that really applies to the church itself. So a lot of people who get disenfranchised and lost, it's like I say the same thing to them. Who got in front of you and started convincing you that this was not what you were supposed to love? You get what I'm saying? So as a great Christian, it's a fine line to walk. And in a lot of religious conversations, I disengage because I'm not supposed to argue, but I do I think teeter the line, and sometimes I falter, and I do kind of cross it because I want people to understand this situation that we're going through is just a new evolved form of spiritual warfare. What you know and what you loved and what you have in your heart originally and initially that you believed in, don't think it not to be true. Go back to that place and stop looking at people for the validation of what you believe in your spirit.
That was very well said. I'm definitely gonna.
I told you. I told you. I told you.
Well, back on mute.
Connor, I saw you.
JC,
go ahead.
JC, can I follow that up real quick?
Yeah.
JC, my two best friends are very, very, very Christian, and I talk very heavily with them about religion and faith and stuff. And it's something that comes up in the fact that they one time mentioned to me, like, hey, do you ever think it's strange that your two best friends are heavily religious? We talk about religion a lot. Like, maybe that's a sign. And it's something that I've always played with, but I think you kind of hit on that it's an interesting point.
It's interesting, though, because I think when it comes to signs, it's interesting you say that, because I don't feel like all the times, like in that situation, they would think that it's a sign that you should become a Christian. That's what they're implying. But how come they not know that maybe the sign's just that they need to not judge people or something of the sort? You know, I feel like when we're existing in this world, the reason I titled this Weaponizing Religion, because I feel like that's what everybody's doing all the time. I feel like my personal journey is that it's a personal one. Like in every religion, there is a communal part of worship. But it's also a personal one. And like JC said, it's not about getting justified by the people you're worshiping with. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's about a self-governance in a lot of ways. And I feel like most people feel like they're taking certain, especially Christians, okay? They'll take certain parts of the Bible and use that to be why they have to ram their beliefs down somebody else's throat. Well, the Bible says spread the word. Damn it, take the word. And I'm like, but my throat hurts. Like, I don't like this word, or at least your interpretation of it. And I think that's another thing. Like, and you're not supposed, I never heard that you're not supposed to argue about religion, because I argued about it all the time, because I feel like personally, the way people use the Bible specifically, and the only reason I'm saying the Bible, don't think I'm beating up on the Christians. I've just experienced it more from Christians because I have more Christians around me. But the way people use the Bible, it's like they'll read the Bible, they'll speak the way they interpreted it, or the way someone else had interpreted that they taught them X, Y, Z, and the third. And they'll forget the fact that this book has been not only translated, but interpreted about 1 billion ways. So when they're talking with this certainty, it frustrates me, because I think that's hubris. I think it's hubris for you to feel like you're the one who figured it out. Congratulations, you figured out this shit, nobody else. And then be like, oh, it's not my understanding. It's like, well, it is your understanding. And so I've seen that to use to weaponize my choices in life because I'm gay. And I've also seen it deal with like when it comes to people. I was talking about somebody the other day. I was like, well, I'm pro-choice. And they said, oh, so you're pro-murder. I said, I've never said I was pro-abortion, for one. For two, it's not my job to stop other people from sinning. It is not my job. My job, even if I was a Christian, my job is not to stop that. My job is to spread it, the awareness of it, the option of it, to the love of, and correct me if I'm wrong, Christians, but it's to spread the love of the one that I worship. It's not to choose how other people are supposed to do it. That's not my job. So for me to tell somebody else that do this or that, do this or you're going to hell, it's like, I feel like you're doing somebody else's job, bro. You know what I'm saying? So that's just how I feel about it. And that's why this is something I'm so passionate about, because I feel like, for one, a lot of people will be a lot more likely to listen to you if they're not told, if they're told about the love versus the fear. I mean, fear does a lot. I'm not going to lie. But if Christians, help me with this. If you're worshiping God because you fear him, isn't that he wants you to love him?
The love is the fear. And that's what they teach you in the doctrine. You're supposed to fear God. You're not supposed to jump in front of him with confidence and boldness, because pride is a deadly sin. Moses, when he went to the bush and talked to God, the bush was so bright that he couldn't even look at it, and God said, take your shoes off here, this is holy land. So it is to respect that. Even when he talked to, I do believe it was the Levites with the Ark of the Covenant, and he said, don't touch it, and they went over there and touched it, and they all got struck by lightning. But this also in the same term is why he sent Jesus to the world, because he acknowledged that he was, in so many instances, crazy as hell, so he needed somebody to come in and break the balance, because this was a man that if you struck a stick on a river, he killed you before you got to the promised land. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the Old Testament is really like a lot of lessons and learning on how to properly fear. And then the New Testament is to teach you how to love and fear at the same time. It's a respect.
So why do you think that it is that's not, when you hear people using or discussing this, I've never heard it said that way. It's always either or. I meet a lot of people who are all about the love side. I meet a lot of people who are all about the OT, Faith, why don't you chime in on that one?
Because I'm a Christian.
Yeah, just because. But she is she's never. I've been around her a lot, and I know that's how she feels about it. But I've never felt from her this sense of pressure to be. So that's why I'm going to you.
So first of all, I want to go back just to touch on you. You don't have to be a part of a religion, because I heard this a few times from people on the panel. You don't have to be a part of the religion or a religion to weaponize religion. You can definitely not call yourself Christian, but then when you use the Bible, they say, well, you're Christian and you do this and this is against, that's a part of weaponizing religion as well. So I'm very shocked that it wasn't more people.
It was just me and you.
Yeah, like I'm here being honest, like, yeah, I did it. And everybody's like, oh no, I would never. And I'm like, really? Okay, well that's cute. But the love and fear, it was love and fear, right?
Yeah, love and fear.
I'm gonna agree with Pastor JC. Yes, that's your new name. I'm gonna agree that God is to be feared. He is to be feared. He's mighty. You bow down to him. I mean, angels bow down to him, and we were created in my religion. We were created to to worship him because he is so high and mighty. But he is so much about love, and I think that's where this is what hurts my heart about a lot of people who call themselves Christian, is that they will put the fear part in there really high, but they will not promote the love part, and that hurts me to pieces. That there are so many people that walk away from the religion or would not even come to the religion, because there are people that are not being, to me, a representation of what Christ wanted us to be. Being loving, being understanding, being open-minded. I will go to anybody's church. I will go to anybody's religious whatever and just be a part of it and not feel awkward, not feel any type of way, but simply because you are my brother as a human, as mankind. I don't have to believe what you believe, but if you're good to me and I'm good to you, we're good, because that's what love is about. And I just wish more people would do that.
So let me ask the group a question. How do you feel about the idea of interfaith dialogue? I was reading a book from the Dalai Lama, and in the book, it basically was saying that he felt it was healthy, if not necessary, that religions need to start communicating about religion with each other more openly and honestly. I kind of want to go to Connor with this one. How do you feel about that being not only, do you think that would be something that would be useful, and do you think it would be something that would be successful?
I think it 100% would be useful. I just want to say, when I saw that the topic was weaponized religion, I was thinking of it more from a colonial aspect.
Oh, use that, because that's a whole thing too.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, I wasn't really considering interpersonal relationships, especially if you grew up in a Christian household and identify as part of the LGBT community, like what that could, is that weaponizing it? I was considering it more like Christianity moving into Africa during French colonialism and kind of wiping out a lot of African religions. I thought that was more where we were going with weaponized religion. I don't know if like interpersonally I've ever weaponized my faith onto like another person, on a person I care about or a person that I've like had dialogue with. But as far as interfaith dialogue, I think it's really important for both facets of that weaponization, because if you can better understand the faith of another person that you're communicating with, you can better understand the limitations of what you expect from them, from the ideas of your faith, and from a colonial aspect, understanding that other religions aren't barbaric or barbaric is that word. Yeah. I think would be massive. There's one other thing I wanted to say.
Don't you hate when that shit happens?
Yeah.
Duryea, that was the same idea that I was talking to you about last night.
What idea?
Like looking at it, understanding the other person's perspective to better understand your own perspective.
Go ahead.
Right.
I just remembered what I was going to say. I think for interpersonal relationships, specifically for that smaller facet, not dealing with colonialism at all, I think a big issue with the weaponization is, I think people who are genuinely like, oh no, you have to fear this facet of God, you have to follow this doctrine, that they really think doing that will save you and like bring you an eternal happiness. And I think that that's really interesting, because I don't think that weaponization is really coming from a place of you're barbaric because you believe in something else. I think it's more just like, I want you to experience the payoff that I'm going to get by following this religion. And I think it's a lot sadder when it comes to interpersonal weaponization of religion.
Okay. Tim, you were trying to say something?
So I agree with this last point a lot, and like even in what JC was saying and Alicia, the whole gist of what I got from them was they were saying like, hey, this is my religion and I heavily believe in it, and I'm not trying to force it on you, but I want you to experience all the happiness and joy that it's brought to me. And with everyone that I know, and maybe it's, and like I said, it's super anecdotal, but like everyone that I know, that's always the vibe that I've gotten, is it's like, hey, this has been something that's great and brought me peace and love, and I just want you to experience it too.
So I literally just looked at the clock and was like, oh my God. So we're going to actually go into our last commercial break, which will be 1 minute, and then we'll come back for our final thoughts. Please stay tuned. This is the best part of the show where everybody hits their mega point for the night. All right. So we're just going to take a quick commercial break.
Hi, this is Cody from Cody Paul Media. Thank you for joining me. Anybody can record a video, but the question is, how do you make that video stand out among the rest? A quick animated video like this one can change things around for your company, so go to codypaulmedia.com and get those needs met today. See you later.
That was Geeking Out, which is Woe Nelly Media's sister podcast, which will be every other Monday. Next month, we're doing Spooktacular Mondays. Our next episode will be Halloween movies, which will be on October the 12th, I think. I think it's the 12th. So come to see us for that. Also, Cody Paul Media does editing, website design, video, all that stuff for animation. If you need anything done to make your website, your videos on YouTube look shiny, you call him. All right, so this is the part of the show where we do our final thoughts. Final thoughts is my favorite part of the show because we get to really hear what people think. We didn't get to hear from Cassie and from Keisha tonight, but we will hear from everybody else. So let's start with Tabitha.
Oh boy. Well, this episode was definitely a heavy hitting one. That's for sure. This is only my second. Hopefully not my last, hopefully not my last. Definitely a heavy hitting episode with a diverse amount of people and diverse type of people. And I actually enjoy just sitting back and listening, spending most of the time listening. And I definitely learned a lot from everybody on this panel. That's for sure. But I think that we can definitely agree there's room for improvement with everybody, all backgrounds included. Nobody's better than anybody else. We all have room to improve. We all have room to be more respectful of each other. We all have room to be less racist or whatever it is. We all have room to improve what we need to improve, and that will make the world a better place when we humble ourselves, because it's always so easy for us to point fingers at everybody. That we're a society of finger pointers, especially on social media, where it's easy to get the thumbs going. But is it as easy for us to put our thumbs down and really critically think on these different issues, racial, religious, whatever it is? Do we spend time critically thinking instead of responding emotionally? Because when you respond emotionally, that's when you can really miss what life wants to teach you. And that's something that I've been trying to do a lot more of lately, critically thinking, because we see all around us how emotional thinking is bringing our world down again. And I think we just got to let off the throttle. Like, you know what? Let me just sit back. Let me self-evaluate. Let me critically think about the situation and see, okay, what's at the core of this? What's at the core of myself? Really, what's at my core and how I respond. But thank you for having me on the panel, Dury. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for being
nice
here,
everybody.
Hey, just so you know, if you're listening to the episode, I'm going to tell you that you can find Tabitha Howard at IG at the Nubian Queen _10, the Nubian Queen. Okay, thank you for being here. All right, next let's go to Alicia.
So you started off with politics, you ended with religion, two heavy hitters. So my final thoughts are love. Love is the answer. I know that sounds so cliche, and I hate that I just said it, but that's really how I feel about it. I don't care your religion, your socioeconomic background, your sexuality. I don't care. Love is the answer. And then lastly, let's not kill people. Let's not use that as a punishment. Killing ain't cool. Killing ain't cool. Hashtag
it. Okay. If you would like to follow Alicia Faith on IG, go to @XO Alicia Faith, spelled just ALICIA, Faith, FAITH. And thank you for being here. So glad to have you. Let's go to Connor. How you doing? What's your final thought?
I'm good. Thanks a lot for having me. It's really cathartic. Just being able to talk to other people during quarantine. It was really interesting for me just because I come from a household that was not religious at all, and all of my exposure to religion has been searching for a religion. Like, I've gone to Bible study for months. I've looked into Eastern religions, Western religions, and viewing it as weaponized, I was really looking at religion versus religion tribalism rather than weaponization of that religion within that same religion. And I think that was just because I was never exposed to that, never growing up with a religion. So this was very, very interesting to just take in everyone's stories and viewpoints on it. And thank you so much for having me, and thanks everyone for contributing.
Thank you for being here. So I was gonna go to JC last, but since he's dropping all the fire, I'm gonna go to Tim first, and then
yeah, I was literally just about to interrupt you and be like, "Yo, JC's going last," because he's dropping the fire.
With the fire.
Pastor JC, right? So that's actually really funny that Connor said that he found this cathartic, and me and Duryea talk about this because I would say that I'm a frequent panelist, but this is something I also find like very, very cathartic, especially because mainstream media and social media in general, just everything is sensationalized would be a good way to put it, and so to get on here and talk to people of opposing views about a multitude of different topics and for the most part have it almost always be relatively calm and just, you know, people having a conversation is amazing. And I think that's something that we need more in life. And me and Duryea just had a conversation a few days ago where I'm trying to explore this new concept of putting myself in another person's shoes and solidifying their argument against me on their behalf to try and give them the benefit of the doubt in every aspect in order to not only find a way forward for that's beneficial for both of us, but then also to just question my own beliefs from their perspective. And I think that's something that's really important. And it's resulted in me changing my opinions about a few things over the past, few weeks to a month, and especially since I've been on the show. But yeah, I think just questioning what you think you know and letting other people help you question what you think you know is really important.
Well, thank you for that. If you want to follow Timmy on IG, it's at DehaasFact, spelled DehaasFact. Thank you for being here. So Mr. Fire coming through. JC, what are your final thoughts tonight? You're muted.
My final thoughts tonight consist of, I think tonight was like a lot of a journey, a lot of bridging.
A lot of fun.
I think we come from a lot of perspectives on certain things, and then we come together on others. And I think it's an ebb and flow of what we consider human interaction. I think tonight is kind of just like a refresher to that. And I feel and hope that everybody at least intertwined on something. And I hope that we can normalize that amongst each other. I think it gets lost in translation a lot. I know I can come off as a strong-minded individual, but I'm not beyond reproach, which I think to my religion, that I can cross bridges with other people. So I hope you guys can do that too. I hope somebody watches this and learns something. I hope they hear one of these voices on this podcast and they really gather, okay, hey, that's like me, or okay, hey, yeah, I identify with that. And I hope somebody else can also look at this and be like, oh, I didn't really think of it that way, which is why I took your invitation. So I just want to thank you. I feel grateful. I feel like I've been on a roller coaster of emotions. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I'm gonna sleep good tonight. It was fab. I'd love to have you back. You impressed some people, which we're gonna talk about after the live. So yeah,
thank you for being here. I just love this. I love your opinions and your passion. And I was just like having him talk about geek stuff is one thing, but I really knew that this was a space, and I'm so happy you exceeded my expectations. This was so dope. So before I say my final thoughts, as always, I want to say thank you to our panelists. And I realized that I wasn't doing enough to thank you at home for watching. You all are such an integral part of this experience because we are reading your comments. Sometimes people on the panel are commenting on you because we can't put them all on screen, but you are part of this conversation and your voice absolutely matters. Please come back and see us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Woe Nelly Media. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch at Day Gamer, all that stuff. Let me make sure I put that up on the screen real quick. My final thoughts is kind of piggybacking off of what JC said. I love doing this show and having people tell me, oh, this was so great to hear people from another. That's the point. Like literally, like I get so enthralled with joy when I hear that's coming across, because to me, we so often let our dividing lines be the only thing we see, when we forget that at our core, we're way more alike because we're alive, because we're living, breathing organisms. We want the same things, and we can help each other get them. We just have to be willing to listen to something that maybe we don't want to hear. Not because it's wrong, just because it challenges our reality. But challenging the truth just because you're afraid doesn't change it from being true. So don't ever stop being a student. I found that it is always best to check your ego and to try to learn, because I heard someone wise tell me before, everyone in the world knows something that you don't, from the youngest child to the oldest. If you're not willing to hear it, you'll never learn. So with that, I want to thank everyone again for being with us tonight. I want to say thank you to my panelists. I want to say thank you to everyone watching. And I want to remind you that Talk It Out is a space where people of opposing views get together and have a healthy, productive dialogue in a respectful way, keeping in mind that it's not always about proving who's wrong and who's right. Sometimes it's simply about listening and being heard. Y'all have a good night.